Man, it's Brad with College SportsCast, and we are presented by the Fanboys. Is it not going anywhere? All right, guys, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I had to wait for a minute. All right. So it's Brad with College Sportscast, and we are on the Sunday of the Elite Eight finals, and we are finding out all the Final Four participants this weekend, Sweet 16 to Final Four, our week wrap-up show. That's what we're doing today. And we hope you enjoy that. And we'll also do a little baseball talk at the end of the show. But for the most part, for quite a bit of the show here, we're going to do a March Madness special. It's March Madness time. It's one of my favorite times of the year. And we're going to start with the NCAA tournament and Final Four. John, you've been watching the Final Four this weekend, any?
Well, I watched the Elite Eight this weekend. The Final Four is next week.
I mean, the Elite Eight. Yeah, that's what I meant.
I watched a little bit of it. I definitely was watching. Well, let's go back to the Sweet 16. I watched.
That's where I was going to start.
I watched Bama game. I watched. Trying to think. I watched some of the Gonzaga game, and then. Trying to think of all the games that I was paying attention to. Definitely the FAU game yesterday. That one was fun to watch. I was keeping up with that one. We had,
I think, both of the FAU games this weekend. Were Thursday and Saturday were both good games.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. So, fun fact. Out of the 6 teams that remain, I only have my champion left.
Well, so
that's it.
Yeah. So we're going to start out with the number 1 seeds go down. Bama and Houston
all
went down in the Sweet 16 round, okay, which is just the 3rd round in the tournament.
Right. So we had one go down in the first round. Right.
One went down in the second round,
and then the other 2 went down in the 3rd round.
And if you notice on the bottom of the screen I have up, it is the first time ever since seeding began in 1970. It is the first time ever that we have not had at least one number 1 seed in the Elite Eight ever.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, ever. So, this is, unheard of. We're in uncharted territory when it comes to the NCAA tournament, March Madness. It's fun. I'm not going to say it's not fun. It is fun, but it's also a little weird at the same time,
It is, and what's fun about it, too, is now Bama apparently is 1-9 in the They've never gone to only 8 once or beyond that. So they've never been beyond the Elite Eight. So they're 0-1 in the Elite Eight. They're 1-9.
1-9. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
With that loss, they became 1-9.
To get to the Elite Eight, not to the Final Four. That's to the Elite Eight.
Right. Yeah. Because they've never had a Final Four appearance. They've only been to one Elite Eight, which they lost.
And Tennessee's no better. And we'll get to them later in closing thought. But Tennessee also went down in the Sweet 16 round. and they're no better. Tennessee has won one time, just like Bama has made it to the Elite Eight. One time.
That was Bruce Pearl, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was Bruce Pearl.
Right. Which I think is.
I'm pretty sure that's right. Now, if you're a Tennessee fan and I've got that mixed up and they did it twice, tell me but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Right. And I mean, it makes sense. Tennessee hasn't gone beyond a certain amount, end. And of course, having, currently Rick Barnes as the coach, and that's kind of the MO with him as well.
Right.
He's not.
Well, so when it comes to those two teams, we'll get to Houston in a minute, but I didn't have Tennessee on the screen. Tennessee was a 4 seed. They had lost a few games down the end of the season. They had an injury bug hit and stuff as well. So Ziegler was out. But anyway, so Tennessee and Bama,
Bama's road.
Teams,
Bama's road. Everybody
was wide open. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wide open because the 2 seed was gone because Virginia went down. You had the 3 seed went down. The 4 seed was gone. They knocked out the 6 seed, right?
Yeah, the 2 seed was gone.
Yeah,
the 2 seed was gone too. Yeah,
right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like that everybody
they knocked out the 4 seed, or the 5 seed. The 5 seed.
Yeah, they knocked out the 5, and so. Yeah. But the 2, 3, 4 were gone, and they were going to, if they had advanced, were going to play the winner of.
The 3 was still there. That was Kansas State. The 3 was still there. That was Kansas State.
Okay, so the 3 was, but the 3 you didn't know that the 3 was going down.
Right. The 3 seed was there. That was Kansas State still.
Right, but they were going to play the winner of the
FAU.
15.
Well, I mean, that's who they played, was FAU.
It was FAU? That's who Kansas played, right? Well, that's who Kansas State lost to, right? It was FAU, correct?
Right, but in the Sweet 16 round, they beat Tennessee. Oh, you're talking about Bama.
I'm talking about where Bama was like their track, like who they were going to play.
Right.
And so, because I can pull this up semi-fast now that I know what I'm doing. But, so Bama would have played so they lost in the Sweet 16 to San Diego State. They would have played the winner of the 15-6, which ended up being the 6, Creighton.
Right.
Or they could have played Princeton. Right, so that's what they were.
Right.
That's what they were looking at, was a 15.
Right, in the Elite Eight. Yes,
in the Elite Eight, and then had they won that game, and gone into the Final Four, they're going to play a number 9 seed FAU. Like they could cakewalk all the way to the final.
Well, I mean, okay, so seeding wise, you're right. It looks that way.
That's what I'm saying. It looks that way, but obviously,
some of these teams are knocking off teams that are, so I mean, you can't say they're a slouch team.
Well, I'm also saying that I mean, if it were on paper, Bama should just walk right in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that.
They don't play the games on paper, do they?
Right. Well, here's what I wanted to say about Bama and Tennessee before we move on to Houston. But Bama and Tennessee are SEC teams. We do a lot of SEC coverage here at College Sportscast. We are based in SEC country. Yeah. I'm in Kentucky. John's in Alabama. Jason Harrison, that's with us sometimes, is in Mississippi and in Arkansas and played for Mississippi. So we are in SEC country, and so we do a lot of SEC coverage. Bama and Tennessee are SEC teams who in basketball usually have pretty good teams. And we just mentioned that both of those teams are horrendous getting to the Elite Eight round in the NCAA tournament.
They are great regular season teams, but not so great postseason teams. So
as a Kentucky fan, I want to say this. This is why the SEC needs Kentucky to be Kentucky, because when it comes down to it, most of these SEC teams do not get it done in the tournament. They just don't.
Correct.
They just don't. Billy Donovan did and got there twice with Florida in 06 and 07, okay? Back to back. And I'm not going to take anything wrong away from Billy Donovan or what Florida did because that was fantastic, all right? But outside of them, Arkansas made a run years and years ago, almost 30 years.
We're talking
almost 30 years ago now, almost 30 years ago with Nolan Richardson.
Right.
Arkansas made a run and got it done, but that was almost 30 years ago, okay? And outside of that, you've had a few teams that have made some Final Four runs over the last 8 or 10 years. Auburn was one, made one Final Four run. South Carolina made a surprising Final Four run not too long ago. Maybe the same year Auburn did. Maybe. It might have been. It was either right before or maybe the same year. I can't remember now. But South Carolina made a run to the Final Four not too awful long ago.
How deep was Georgia's run when they had the when they won the SEC tournament when the tornado hit?
Yeah.
How deep did they go in the NCAA tournament? Because they actually won a few games in that too.
Yeah, I think they went to the Sweet 16 round or something like that. I believe
they didn't go real deep in that one.
No. Well, I mean they won a few games. Yeah.
I mean it was winning the tournament, winning the SEC tournament, and winning any game in the NCAA tournament was overachieving for that team because that team was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Bottom of the
my
SEC
point is this: the SEC needs Kentucky to be Kentucky. They really, really do. And when it comes to basketball, when you look at it, you can clout. I've heard so many Tennessee fans talking the last few days until they lost a day or two ago. But Tennessee fans are talking, Alabama fans are talking, and the truth is, if you're a Tennessee or an Alabama fan or an Auburn fan or an LSU fan, or there's a lot of really good teams in the SEC over the years, okay?
Right.
They just don't get it done. I really thought Bama had the team to do it. Now, I'm going to bring up one more thing about this Bama team.
Games. I'm going to make this one. I'm going to make
games.
One more comparison for this Bama
3
team.
Games. They played 3 games in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Brandon Miller, 6'9", All-American, first team All-American. In 3 games was 8 of 41 from the floor.
Yes.
8 of 41 from the floor. Now, do you see why Bama struggled in this tournament?
Somebody was upset that they that somebody was bringing up the stats for that for him. Somebody had posted up the stats, and somebody else commented on Twitter that why would they bring this up? This is such awful reporting. And went, what?
What?
some dumb fan.
Yeah, but here's the deal, man. I mean, I don't know what happened. I don't know why he hadn't played that way all year long. He's looked great. He looks like, a top 5, maybe top 3, top 2 pick. I'm not exactly sure where he'll fall, but he's definitely going to be in the top. I know that, okay?
Right.
And for him to come into this NCAA tournament and to shoot 8 of 41 from the floor, that is less than 20%, guys.
Yeah.
Bama struggled. And they were going to struggle with Brandon Miller playing like that.
Right. What I will say about this is this year's Bama team is like the 1999 Auburn team, a team that was a number one seed Auburn team that only went to the Sweet 16. that didn't go anywhere. That's the Doc Robinson.
Auburn's done the same thing over the years, and they've had some good teams over the years. They did get to the one Final Four with Bruce Pearl in 19, which, is a notch on the belt for the SEC when a team gets to the Final Four. Whether they lose it or not, it's still a notch on the belt, and you can say, hey, the SEC got to the Final Four.
Correct.
So that does help. As far as winning it, like I said, Arkansas done it in 94, Florida done it in 06 and 07. I'm not sure.
Auburn should have done it with the double dribble. There was a double dribble.
Yeah. I mean, and then so, getting to Houston, and I'm not going to try to tout myself too much, but I have been saying all season long that Houston kind of scared me once tournament time come, because I didn't know if back to back, the way you have to do it in the NCAA tournament, if their offense was efficient enough to keep them in a game, and that what I said is they were going to run against an offensive team that was just hot one night, and they were going to struggle. And that's kind of what happened.
Correct.
Miami was really hot, scored 80-some points. I forgot what the score was now exactly without looking it up. But they, as good a defensive team that Houston was, when you run against just a team that's hot some night, they just didn't have the offense to keep up with them.
Very true. Very true.
And that's my take on Houston. There are going to be people that's going to argue with me about that and say that Houston's efficiency numbers on offense was top 5 in the country, or blah, blah, blah. Number 4, top 10. I can't remember now. But, that's per possession, and they slow the ball down. When you got a team that's running and gunning and scoring 80-some points, your possessions pick up, and you instead of having 40 possessions in a game, you're going to have 65 because Miami is speeding you up.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference.
Correct.
Yeah. And those 40 and 65 numbers, I didn't count the possessions, guys. I just threw out some numbers.
Right. No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, what you were saying.
Yeah. So that was my concern with Houston. And I did say that all year long. I will, however, say this. I looked at the bracket, and I really thought Houston had a pretty good chance to get to the Elite Eight when the brackets come out. Now, I knew when they got to the Elite Eight that they were going to run into a team like a Texas, possibly, that is playing a little later, that could possibly knock them out. But I really thought when their bracket come out that they had a good shot at least getting to the Elite Eight, which would give them a chance to make the Final Four that's actually being played in Houston, which would have made it.
That was the one thing that you would love to see happen, but I had this feeling like they would not make it to Houston. That was my thought process, actually, when doing the bracket for them. I thought that they would have lost in the next round in the Elite Eight to Texas.
Yeah.
I thought that's where they were going to go down.
Right.
Because I thought that they would go down the round before they made the trip to Houston.
Right.
And then that would make it.
Which would be this evening, today.
You were going to be
like
so
now.
close. And then it was like, no.
And that's where, if you were telling me where they would have got knocked out, I would have said it would have been the Elite Eight round. That's it, at the beginning of the
Right.
tournament.
I mean, that's where I had them in my bracket, was getting knocked out in the Elite Eight, and they got knocked out in the Sweet 16. So I had them playing Texas. I had them beating Miami and then playing Texas. And instead, it's Miami playing Texas.
Well, I can tell you, Miami and their coach, I can't never say his last name, Jim Larinaga or something. I can't never say his last name, but anyway, he is a special coach, by the way, just so y'all know. This is the second year in a row now at Miami that he has gotten them to the Elite Eight, has a chance to take them to the Final Four with a win today, here in a little bit. All right. He took George Mason to the Final Four back in the early 2010s. I can't remember exactly what year it was. But he took George Mason to the Final Four. I think it might have been 2010 or 12. I can't remember the exact year now. But, you got to give him a shout out. I mean, he's done he's a great coach.
Oh, yeah.
That's the team who, offensive that I was just talking about that beat Houston. So
right.
That's why I brought that. All right, so let's get to the winners, and we got two winners already. FAU, Florida Atlantic University, the Owls are going to the Final Four. They were, I believe, slighted a little bit and placed as a 9 seed. They have a top 20 Ken Palm and have had almost all year long. And been inside the top 20 in the rankings almost all year long. And they were placed as a 9 seed. I know I'm friends with on Twitter, I'm friends with a lot of good bracket guys and bracketologists and stuff. And most of them had them placed at about a 7 seed. Instead of a 9. But anyway, so they were placed as a 9 seed, and this is the second time in the last 10 years, 11 years now that a 9 seed has made the Final Four.
Yes, something like that.
That's a 9 seed's got a rough go, okay? You got to play the 8 seed in the first round, which is never a easy game. The 8-9 is always a tough game. Then you got to play the 1 seed on the line, Then you get a 4 or a 5 seed, and then you get a 2 or a 3 seed on the line. I mean, that's how it would normally go, okay?
Right.
Now, I realize FAU didn't play the 1 seed this time because Purdue got knocked out in the first round. So they didn't have that 1 seed mark this time, okay? But they did knock out Tennessee, who was a 4 seed, and knocked out Kansas State, who was a 3 seed, to get to the Final Four. Dusty May. Remember his name. Dusty May. That's the coach for Florida Atlantic. And I want to get to one other thing for sure about Florida Atlantic. Before a week and a half ago, Florida Atlantic had never won an NCAA tournament game. Never.
And now look where they are.
And now they're sitting in the Final Four. They won their first NCAA tournament game in the first round. So I just want to say that Dusty May is their coach. Yesterday, when the game was over and they won and everybody's celebrating and stuff's going up and everything, and they come over to him to ask him to do an interview after the game, okay?
Yep.
And he told the girl that come over, the media girl that come over and asked him for the interview, he told her, he said, I want to get all my team together before we go on there. I'm not going on the air with you unless all my players are here with me. So they had to get the whole team together to interview Dusty May. It's just a sign of unity that they play
Right.
with, and that's how they play. They're a true team. They don't have any guy that's going to drop 45 on you, and the others are going to score 5.
Right.
They have 5, 6, 7 guys that's going to score between 10 and 17, and it's a complete team effort. The guy who come off the bench yesterday in the closing seconds was the first recruit that Dusty May. His name is Michael Foster. He come in and hit 4 free throws with under 10, 12 seconds because they were fouling late, okay?
Yeah.
Went 4 for 4. He was the guy's first recruit. He's a 5th-year senior. This is his extra year. He's a 5th-year senior. And Dusty May, the coach, was just talking him up, was elated, and he only scored. He's not a big scorer, guys. He did score 11 points against Tennessee, but that was like one of his highest points, So I think he had like 6 yesterday, but 4 of those was in the last closing seconds at the free throw line. With the game on the line, final 4 on the line, and this guy steps up, off the bench, not playing a whole lot, and steps up and hit, 4 free throws to send them to the Final Four. So I want to give him a shout out. That's tough. The nerves. I mean, I've played ball a long time ago, and it wasn't for the Final Four. We're talking about like for a district championship or something like that, in high school. I'm not talking – I ain't played that kind of ball. But even that is nerve-wracking.
I just want to break in right now. Creighton and San Diego State are going into overtime, tied at 56. Going into overtime because of a probably an ill-advised inbound pass that allowed Creighton to tie it up, and then the fact that
I wonder if they didn't call a foul on that.
Yeah,
I'm watching the replay.
Yeah, that's close right there. But well, I don't know. They're looking at something.
They are looking at something, so maybe they are.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe they did. Yeah, if they call a foul on that, that will suck for Creighton.
Maybe that's why they're showing the replays.
Yeah, I think. Well, they're looking at it right now. But if his arm's on his back.
If they call a foul on that.
And when he swipes with the right hand, he might
actually. You said it's going to overtime. They put some time back on. It's 1.2 seconds.
So they called the foul. They had to have called the foul.
They did. He's going to the free throw line.
So it's not going into overtime yet. They called the foul. It is
now they're calling a timeout.
Yeah. Well, they have one more timeout. That's their last. San Diego State has 0 timeouts. Creighton is just using their last timeout right now. And just so that he can yell at the referee.
We'll get back to them in just a minute, but it looks like they did call a foul there.
Yep.
All right, so another thing that I want to get to with FAU is they are from Conference USA, and I just want to give them a damn shout out, man.
Yeah, I mean it would be nice if the second place team of this conference got into the tournament as well. All right. That would be nice. I would have loved it.
I'm gonna get to some of this. Okay. So Charlotte, who was the fourth place team in the conference, was invited to the CBI and won the CBI. Won like 3 or 4 games in the CBI. They're the champions of the CBI. Okay. Then 2 teams who did not get an NCAA tournament made the NIT, North Texas and UAB.
Yep.
Okay. Both North Texas and UAB are currently sitting in the Final Four
and could play each other
in the NIT, and they could match in the championship game if they keep
they're
winning.
On 2 different sides of the bracket.
Yeah, they're on 2 different sides, so they could match in the championship game. Okay.
Yes.
And FAU has now 1, and in the Final Four of the NCAA tournament.
Is this the greatest run for a single conference?
All 4 teams that have made major tournaments are either Charlotte has already won, and the other 3 are in the Final Four of that tournament. Okay, they're still winning. None of them have lost. I just want to give a huge shout out to Conference USA.
All right, so
and
San Diego
please,
State.
somebody that's on a committee somewhere, pay attention to some of these smaller conferences.
Does not need to be a 1-bid league.
Conference USA did not deserve to be a 1-bid league. They really did not.
No. There should have been at least 2 to 3. Maybe not all 4, but 2 to 3 should have definitely gotten in.
At least 2.
Right. So San Diego State got 1 of 2 on the free throw. Creighton with a long baseball pass to the end from one inbound to the other, from baseline to baseline.
They're looking at this. They're looking at
this because they're looking at the time into which it got touched and who it's out on, and if it hit the ground before the time expired, which it looks like time expired after it hit the ground. So if it's out, because San Diego State does touch it right here, but it could have been out on Creighton last, because Creighton, I think, is the last one.
It's now a 1-point game. So
I think it's 57-56. I think it's going to be San Diego State's ball with 0.3 seconds, because I think Creighton touches it last. I think they're the ones that knocked it out. But I think it's going to be San Diego State's ball with 0.3 seconds. Creighton is most likely going to have to foul before the ball gets thrown in.
All right, so I do have the Creighton game on here since we're like kind of updated. I'll go ahead and pull it up, and then we'll go back and talk about you.
I haven't been looking at you. I've been watching the game on my computer screen. So I've been while you've been talking and I've been looking at the computer screen, it hasn't been looking at you on the screen.
Right.
It has been watching this game. Because
I got you.
TV is dedicated to 4 baseball games. So
right.
Computer has.
So under official review here, Drew.
No. The podcast is the official review. Come on.
But I was talking about this game. I wasn't talking about the podcast.
OH. Okay, good. Give a shout out to the Ohio State fan.
I believe.
I think it's out on Creighton.
Man,
I think it's out on number 24.
Either way.
33 touches it, but I think 24.
He does. Both of them went up at the same time, it looks like.
Yeah, but I think, so.
All right, so Creighton and San Diego State, they're playing currently, and, coming down, looks like, going to be a 1-point game here. Maybe 2 or 3 tenths on the clock, maybe, is what I'm saying.
I think 0.3.
Oh, my gosh.
His foot's on the line.
His foot's on the line.
Yeah.
Are they reviewing that?
Well, no, they're reviewing where this is. But I think because look, like I said, I think 33 touches it. I think 24.
If they review that though, then they have to go back down to the other side.
Yeah, it'd be down there. It'd be 1.2 seconds underneath the.
Oh my gosh!
They went ahead and called it.
They called it. San Diego State is now in the Final Four.
So the problem with so what we were looking at, just so that to let everybody that's listening know what we were looking at too. The other thing is once the clock actually did not start the moment that the ball was touched. It didn't get started until it was up in the air after the ball was touched. So even though it hit the ground with 0.3 seconds, they probably took the time off of where it should have started, and it would have landed at 0. And they had to have used. But they
spent a lot of time looking at this video, like they were reviewing this for a while.
At that point, and say that it took more than 0.3 seconds before that thing started.
Right. So they called the game. San Diego State wins 57-56.
So we have a 9 seed and a 5 seed in the
San
Final
Diego
Four.
State is a Mountain West Conference team. I will say now Creighton is a Big East and UConn is a Big East. So I have been touting most of this year that I thought that the Big East and the Mountain West conferences would have a chance for a team. I didn't really mention which team yet, you know what I mean, through the season, but I did say both of them would have a chance to make a Final Four.
Now,
and I've been saying that since like January.
Listen to this here. We have 5 seed San Diego State versus 9 seed FAU in one matchup of the Final Four. And we're going to have either 2 seeded Texas or 5 seeded Miami go against 4 seed UConn. Right. So obviously there are no ones. We've already discussed this, and that happened once Alabama and Houston.
Texas is the only 2 seed left, and there's no 3 seed.
Texas is the highest seeded team left, and was the highest seeded team going into today as a 2 seed, and I think they were the highest seeded team in the Elite Eight as a 2 seed. Yep, they were. Yeah, they were the highest seeded team as a 2 seed. They were the only 2 seed in the Elite Eight. Yeah, and they were.
All the rest of the 1s and 2s had already been knocked out.
Correct, and so. So we're going to have a 5 and a 9, and then either a 5 and a 4 or a 2
and a Conference USA versus Mountain West Conference.
Correct.
In the Final Four.
Big East versus either a down ACC or what most people thought was the best Big 12.
Right. That's what we're going to have in the Final Four, which is simply amazing. Correct. San Diego State is the coach is being interviewed right now, right after the game. So this game just went final. And matter of fact, no, I don't think it starts for another 20 minutes or so.
Well, it had a time of 5:05, and I don't know if that's Eastern or if that is Central. Because if it's Eastern, then you got about 20 minutes, like you said, 25 minutes. If it's Central, you got an hour and 20.
No, it's 20 or 25 minutes, I think.
Okay, then these are Eastern times.
Yeah,
on this site.
Well, congratulations to San Diego State and the Mountain West Conference for making the Final Four. I do want to say that. I want to get back to UConn yesterday. They absolutely obliterated Gonzaga yesterday. And,
yes. I called Gonzaga losing in this round, not UConn,
I mean,
but
losing. I thought there was a chance that Gonzaga would lose. The way it went down, I never. I mean, Gonzaga doesn't. By the way, it was a 28-point loss, I think, and I seen after the game that was the worst loss in Gonzaga NCAA tournament history.
Oh, even before they were good. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was their worst.
They were good. I don't know if they were making the tournament.
Right, right. That was their worst loss. Points-wise, point spread, ever. So UConn is looking the part. They really are. They're a team that looked great early on. They went through a slump and was like 2-5 or something in the Big East when it started. And then they caught fire again and have made this run. And, I mean, they are wiping the floor with these teams. They are averaging winning. They've made a run to the Final Four, and they're averaging winning these games by 22.5 points a game.
And the last time that we were talking about a team winning a couple of games, averaging 22-plus points games per margin of victory was Alabama, and the immediate game following they lost.
Yeah, this is true.
Just wanted to let you know that.
This is true, but 4 games. They went 4. This isn't 1 or 2 games. This is 4 games into the tournament.
With Alabama, we were doing their SEC tournament.
This is 4 games in a row. They are averaging winning these games by 22.5 points, guys.
Right.
Dan Hurley, who is their head coach, has got them playing some ball. And I was noticing yesterday the Hurleys are pretty famous in basketball. Their dad was a famous coach in high school, famous coach in New York. And then, of course, Bobby Hurley is famous for his playing days at Duke and winning back-to-back titles at Duke. And then Dan is held his own in, coaching as well. And now he has taken UConn to the Final Four. And it was a family affair yesterday. I mean, the whole Hurley family. There's a couple of other brothers that are coaches and been coaches and players and stuff. And it was really a family affair yesterday after the game. And all the Hurleys are pretty ecstatic. Dan was really ecstatic for his dad, pretty emotional about it as well, I've seen. So just congratulations to UConn. They are the only remaining team that has won a title. They have won 3, actually. UConn, 99, 2011, and 2014. They've won 3. They are the only remaining team who has won a title. None of these coaches that are left has ever won a national championship. So one of the coaches is going to get their first national championship. And as long as it's not UConn, one of these teams is going to win their first one. But if UConn does, like I said, they have 3 before. So
I'm silently rooting for Texas, not because I picked them, but because it will force them to make a giant choice, whether to hire to hire their interim head coach as their head coach, or to make a big splash and go in after a big name, which is what they would normally do. Which is something that Texas wants to do or would normally do. So I want them to have this decision forced upon them.
To make the decision,
and they need 3 more. They need 3 more wins in order for that to happen. They've got to win today, and then next Saturday, and then the following Monday. So they've got to be able to do it 3 more times, and if they can, then then they will have to. They will be forced to make this decision. I mean, I think they're going to be forced to make this decision anyway.
They are,
but it will make it even harder because the guy would have won a national title.
Well, how do you not hire him if he wins a national title? I mean, come on.
I
mean, come on.
Would he then be the only coach to have won a national
in
title
any sport ever,
and
be an interim coach? I don't know that that's ever happened.
Yeah, 1 to do it as an interim coach, and 2 to do it and not be retained by the university after he won it.
But I don't know that an interim coach has ever won a title, won a championship. I don't know if that's ever happened.
I don't know if that's ever happened either. But also, again, the whole thing is what if he is not retained? And then he would be the only national.
They couldn't do that. There's no way they could do that if he wins a title. Come on.
I just want to see it. He wins the title, and then becomes assistant coach at Ole Miss.
At Mississippi, and then they're gonna, that would be funny, but I just don't see it.
My whole mess with chaos. This would be hilarious. I would be laughing my rear off.
All right, so I do want to get to Kansas State and Gonzaga, who are the 2 teams that lost yesterday. Both of these teams yesterday played with one of their key players in foul trouble, and I think that was part of the reason why Keontae Johnson
came from Florida.
Almost said George, but that's Texas.
Yeah.
He he's the one that transferred in from Florida, and he's one of their star players for Kansas State. And he only played 8 minutes in the first half and was very limited in the second half. He only had 9 points yesterday, and that really hurt Kansas State. In the same token, Gonzaga last night, their one true star, Drew Timme, was in foul trouble the entire game. He picked up his third foul within 20 seconds of the second half opening.
Oh, wow.
20 seconds. Okay. He picked up his third foul. He was already out some in the first half with 2. All right. He picked up his third foul 20 seconds into the second half, set out 6-7 minutes at least. And while he set out, they just blew the doors off. I mean, they took it from a 7-point game, you know what I mean, to a 25-point game while Drew Timme set out. All right. Yeah. Then they put him back in. He wound up getting his fourth foul pretty quick. He did play.
He played the rest of the game, I think. I think he was in
He did play. They set him out again for another minute or two when he picked up his fourth, but then they put him back in and he played the rest of the game with 4. But by that time, UConn had blew the doors off the game, you know, and I think I want to give a shout out to both of these teams who are great programs and had great seasons. Mark Few is one of the best coaches there is, in my opinion. And it's a shame that Drew Timme went out that way. I mean, the game before he had 36 points and like 14 rebounds. And, you know, I mean, Drew Timme's one of the stars in college basketball for the last 3 years. And he goes out, you know, just not being able to compete really, because every time he done something, they called a foul on him.
Right.
You know,
he had 36 points in the previous game and wasn't even the I mean, he was the star of the game, but he was not the one that hit the shot at the end.
No.
They hit the 3 at the end,
right.
And that was and that was what was
well, that's what got him.
The amazing, what got him to the because it was a tie game.
But anyway, so that I did want to get to that. You know, both of those teams had great seasons, and I think what hampered both of them yesterday was their stars were basically confined with fouls.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So then we've got Creighton, who just lost. They had a great season. They were a preseason 9th or 10th, depending on which poll. They, too, started the season out great, kind of like what I was talking about with UConn. Early in the season in November, they started out great, won a couple of those, or played really great. I think won one of those preseason tournaments and knocked off a couple of really good teams and was looking great. And then they had a player get hurt and was out for a while.
Right.
And Creighton actually lost 6 games in a row in December. 6 games in a row. And then they got healthy and made a comeback. They won like 8 or 10 in a row after he come back. And then won, you know, went like 2-12 after he come back, and then makes it to the Elite 8 here and gets beat by 1 point going to the Final Four. And like John said, if you were watching our show just a few minutes ago, I mean, we thought it was going into overtime. They went back and reviewed, called a foul. They get to go to the line, hit 1 out of 2, and beat them. I mean, basically is what happened. Yeah. So Creighton, the Blue Jays had a great season. Greg McDermott is their coach. He's done an awesome job. I just want to give him a shout out. Jerome Tang is Kansas State's coach, who was his first year, done a great job. But I'm going to tell you, that guy, he's got a little moxie for somebody who's a first-year coach. I don't know if you paid attention to some of the statements and things he's done the last 3 or 4 days since the Kentucky game. And even in the loss, he went into FAU's locker room.
I was going to say he showed some class on this one, doing this
yesterday. Yeah.
And
I mean, but for a first-year coach to go in like that, I mean, you know what I mean? Like that, I don't know. It just hits me wrong. It would be different if it was Coach K. You know what I mean? Like if you were a coach and you went in, you go, this guy is a first-year coach who has
believes in
never.
himself.
I know,
absolutely
but he's
all the
never
confidence
done
in the
anything.
world.
Why is he going into FAU's locker room and saying, guys, don't let anybody say anything. Just keep doing what you're doing? Isn't that their coach's job to say that?
Hey,
why is Jerome Tang going in their locker room? It'd be different if you were Bill Self.
Why? Why would it be different? Why would?
And you've won a couple of titles.
Why would it be different?
Because you have a little clout. You have something to stand.
The opposing head coach walked in and said,
"But he's a first-year coach." I don't know. I just don't. I thought it was a little.
Show you different. I think
he
what
did say his wording wasn't awful. I'm not saying that at all. What he said in the locker room with the FAU yesterday.
Right.
I just thought. I mean, he's a first-year coach.
Okay. And
I just like, why is he going into the? I just, if you're Bill Self or Jim Boeheim or Coach K or huh?
Why shouldn't any of the ones that came before him? Why couldn't they go in there? They didn't. None of them did.
Because I don't think you should. Like, I just don't like. I don't know.
Congratulate the other team.
To me, that's a great idea. Congratulate them. That's fine. I'm not saying the wording that he used is telling the other opposing. Because they're FAU and they're Conference USA. The wording he used was kind of like, well, you guys just keep doing what you're doing and you're doing great. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just. I don't know. I thought it was. He just don't have enough.
It would be even worse if it was a Bill Self or somebody with clout, because it would definitely sound like somebody is talking down to them. But because he's K-State, a first-year head coach,
okay, maybe so,
hasn't
but
done anything. That doesn't mean it doesn't look like that the talking down, like, because otherwise it would look like, well, we're actually better than you, but you guys just keep doing what you're doing.
But that's kind of what it, yeah.
So, okay, it would look worse if it were Tom Izzo, Bill Self,
right? If it's Tom Izzo or Bill Self,
all of that, it would look worse.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's a bad thing that he did it. In fact, if he keeps doing it every year that he ever makes the tournament, that the team that beats him and knocks him out, and he goes into that.
Well, yeah, if he keeps doing it, then I think
that's great, and I think that they can.
I just thought,
coaches could,
like who is Jerome Tang to walk up in somebody's locker room?
Who was Coach K when he first got started? Who was Coach K when he first got started?
I mean,
who's Bill Self when he first got started?
If I was Dusty May, I would send him a case of Tang. Be like, thanks for coming out of the locker room.
There's not a purple Tang. It's all orange.
I'm just saying.
So am I.
Thanks for coming in our locker room.
Thank you. Come again.
I'd send him a case of Tang.
Thank you later.
All right, let's get to Miami and Texas, who is about to come on and about to be played. Miami has looked great so far in this tournament. They really have. Like I said, they ran and scored 80-some points against Houston and looked great. So I want to say, Texas has played great as well. Texas has played great as well in this tournament. Actually, Texas ended the season playing great, beating Kansas twice. So how do you think this game's? I know you picked Texas in your bracket, but do you think Miami can play with them? And these games, you just never know. Do you think they can beat?
You don't know, and I think Miami can play with them, but I sure hope to goodness that Texas wins. So
I have Texas in one of my brackets in this one.
You and your multiple brackets should be banned from getting into these things.
Whatever. I always do two brackets. Always.
You see that foam finger that's up there with the fanboys? It says one bracket right there. That's what it says.
I do two brackets every year. Always have.
Then do it in two different groups.
I do. I'm actually in about 3 or 4 different groups.
Yeah, but you use two brackets in this group. One bracket.
That's because T3's brackets, you could have 3 brackets.
Oh.
In his.
Even worse. Oh. Terrible.
Each bracket. Person, all you got to do is look at the thing. It's in there. When I made it, anybody can do 2 brackets.
I see that. I'm saying one bracket. Because I can make 50 brackets and be like, oh, yeah, man, I did great in my bracket.
Do you know that you can do those, and some of them don't even put a limit on it, that you can do however many brackets you want?
I understand how the whole thing works. I am just saying from a personal
I don't like that.
Everybody should
where you can just put one bracket. Where you can put like 10, 12, 50, 100 brackets in there. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. One bracket.
I'm just saying.
Me too.
So you got the ACC, who is the only team left with Miami, and then the Big 12, who would one of these teams is going to get in, and neither one of the conferences have a team in because Kansas State had gotten beat. So if Texas gets in, it'll be the only Big 12 team in, and if Miami wins, it'll be the only ACC team in the Final Four.
Correct.
And it's going to start in about 10 minutes or so. We're going to kind of move on and go to something else here. And then we'll maybe update you right before we, get off the show.
An update right as we leave.
Yeah, right as we leave. So
there we go.
The Final Four outlook, we kind of already talked about the teams that'll be there that we already know. We know 3 of the 4 teams.
Yep.
FAU, UConn, and now San Diego State. And we already talked about the matchups. That's kind of the outlook. We will get to breaking down these games and these teams a little bit more further into the week. Right. We have a Tuesday and Thursday show that we will get into the Final Four breakdown and talking about discussion of the teams and our picks and stuff. We will kind of get to that later in the week.
Yes.
Sound good?
Yes, it does. Sounds
so we'll have a little bit more to talk about and that kind of stuff. And but we are now down to 5 teams remaining. We know 3 of the Final Four participants, and the other one is going to be either a 5-seed Miami or 2-seed Texas. And there is a Mountain West Conference team, San Diego State. There is a Conference USA team in Florida Atlantic.
Yep.
And a Big East team in UConn. So where we are setting right now, there's no Big 12, there's no SEC, there's no Big 10, there's no ACC. We have 3 teams in, and none of them are in what the Big East in basketball technically is one of the Power 6 conferences.
Power 6, but not
6.
Power 5.
Right. Technically. But all right, in football, you got Power 5. All right,
Well,
Big East is not one of those.
You could replace the Big East with the Pac-12. Make that's basketball right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pac-12's only got one team. They're just a one-team participant. It's UCLA. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, Arizona makes
Arizona
it.
didn't really want to. They didn't want to play. They got bounced,
but they can get out of the first or second round. Yeah.
They didn't really want to participate.
Yeah. So, what I'm saying is the Power 5, 6 conferences, you don't even have one of those in right now.
Correct.
Now you will with ACC or Big 12. One of those two is going to get in.
Yes.
But so you'll have one participant out of the top 5 conferences that most people think of when they say, power conferences. Now, the Big East, technically in basketball, is one of the Power 6, is all Correct. I'm saying. So that's what the Final Four is going to look like. We are excited to break this down. Next Sunday, we will have Steve Heigl back on with us to break down the final game, because the Final Four games will be played Saturday night, and then the final game is played on Monday night. And on Sunday, we will kind of break down the final game and the participants in each team and kind of give you an outlook of this crazy March Madness with Steve Heigl, and kind of break down the games and stuff, the game that's remaining for Monday night, the championship game. So we are looking forward to that next Sunday. So we're going to be a whole lot about basketball the next few shows, but we do have a guest on with us Tuesday night. So do you want to bring that up?
Yeah. Well, I will in a minute. I will get back to introducing who the guest will be on Tuesday night. But we will go right into the weekend series for baseball.
Give me just 1 second before we get to the baseball thing. I'm going to do a little commercial here for the Real Fresh channel.
All right.
We are part of the Real Fresh channel, so I'm going to give Howie Fresh and the Real Fresh channel a shout out here, and we've got a little commercial for him.
Hey, I am Hal Fresh here to tell you about the Real Fresh channel. That's right, youtube.com/the Real Fresh channel. We are a network aiming to bringing you various content each and every day, different types of podcasts, different type of content, anything from college SportsCast and fresh takes for some sports. We also got You Want to Do What? We got the Wrestling Corner. We got live stream. Just go over to youtube.com/the Real Fresh channel and hit us up today. Thank you for checking it out. Appreciate your time.
Right on. Have you joined us? I can't tell. You're still watching.
All right, guys.
He's slow.
We appreciate Howie Fresh. We are on his channel, and we appreciate him. Go to his YouTube channel. That's what he was advertising there, so we appreciate him. All right, John, baseball. Kind of give you an update on the weekend series.
All right, so update on the weekend series. We went through and we picked a bunch of games, so we're going to go through those games these series right now. The first one that we did was the Georgia-Auburn series. I believe both of us picked Auburn to win this series, and that is exactly what happened. The third game, which was played yesterday, not Sunday, but on Saturday, looked more like a football score with the 24-7
Yeah, it did look
outcome
like
in terms of Georgia, and I was
exactly
wondering
right.
if Kirby had brought the football team to beat up on us. But
it did totally look like a football score.
That was nuts.
You're right.
The second one,
but Auburn did win the Thursday and Friday games. So
right?
They won the series.
Both were comeback victories, and they looked like they were getting ready to come back on Saturday for the third game of the series, and it ended up falling short. And they just
Well, that was a series that Auburn really had to have, I think, for a series win.
Either one of them needed it, but yes, definitely Auburn, because Auburn looked like they had probably more of a potential to do something this year than maybe Georgia. Right. So the next series that we looked at was number 5 Arkansas at number 1 LSU. I believe both of us picked LSU to win this series. And after the opening game on Friday night, where Arkansas kind of ran away with it, actually, it wasn't even Friday night; it was Friday at noon. Arkansas ran away with it. I think they won 9-3. LSU took control of the series in the day yesterday and won both games, swept them on the doubleheader, and ended up taking the series 2-1.
Right.
The third one that we looked at was FSU at number 8 Virginia, and I believe we both picked Virginia to win this one, right? You picked Virginia? I picked Virginia. I know that.
I did, yeah.
You picked Virginia, and we were both right. I believe Virginia may have swept this series, but I have to go back and look. I know they won it, but they might have actually swept it. And then we looked at Duke at, what is that, number?
UNC.
It was at either 15 or 17 UNC. And UNC, I believe, took at least 2 out of 3 out of this one as well. So they did win the series. I know that. Then we looked at Clemson at Georgia Tech. Did you have Clemson or did you have Georgia Tech? Because at some point we were different.
I think we were different here.
Okay. You had Clemson.
Did you? I think I had Clemson and you had Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech won the series. Georgia Tech won it. Georgia Tech won the first 2 games of the series. I believe Clemson either has just won or
they're 14-1.
Is leading in the game today. So but Georgia Tech took the first 2 games out of the series, so Georgia Tech won the series. Then we had number 22 Mizzou at number 11 USC South Carolina. Did we both get South Carolina, or did you pick Missouri?
I think we both picked South Carolina. South Carolina actually swept, didn't they?
Correct. South Carolina swept this one. Yes. And then in the next series was number 21 Texas A&M at number 12 University of Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah.
And I know I picked Tennessee.
I picked Tennessee.
And Tennessee won the series.
Did they sweep or did they win the series?
May have swept.
I'm thinking they swept.
I'll have to go look, but I think they swept it. Yeah. And then the next series was the one for you, Kentucky at Bama. And that's number 23, Kentucky at Bama. And I'm pretty certain you picked Kentucky.
I did.
I actually picked Bama, and Kentucky won the series. They won the first 2 games of the series. Bama won the third one, 4-3. So this will actually, in turn, be the only series that I lost this week. Yeah. I actually called every one of these except for that one. The next one we had number 17 Miami at number 2 Wake Forest, and
I know Wake won the first 2. I know.
And I believe Wake won the third one as well. They swept them. So that was a sweep for Wake Forest. I know I had Wake winning it. I don't remember where you were because we kind of differed a few of these at the end.
I think
you had Wake.
I think I did, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And the last one that we did was number 3, Florida at number 13, Ole Miss. I had Florida winning the series, and you had?
I think I might have picked Ole Miss to win the series. I can't remember.
I think Florida swept it. If Florida, nope. Sorry, Florida hasn't swept it yet. They are leading in Game 3.
Yeah, it's not over. Yeah,
in the bottom of the 7th inning, but they have won the series the first 2 games.
Right.
I believe they even run ruled them in one of them. And so I did not put the Vanderbilt Mississippi State because I felt like it was going to be blowouts, and I was right.
Wow, Vandy is killing it. Like
'Cause
they had
it was a clean
26 points in one game, and that was last weekend, I think. But they
No. They won 26-2 or 26-3 this week.
yeah, something like that. How do you score 26 runs in baseball?
Just like you score 24 runs in baseball, you get big innings.
That's a lot of runs in baseball, man.
It is. I don't think they put up a 17 spot in an inning like Georgia did.
I mean, 14 is a high score, okay? 26 is damn near ridiculous.
Yes, it's very offensive to everybody. Everybody is offended by this.
I mean, seriously.
It's a lot of offense.
We talked about the Georgia-Auburn game yesterday. It was 24-7. Like,
yeah, that's a football score right there.
Did Kirby Smart show up there? Is that how that
like
happened?
I said, they put a 17 spot in the 8th inning. 17. 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Did they bat like twice?
Could have. Should have.
Like, did they go around twice in one inning?
Yes, because they have to. In order to score 17, you have 9 batting in it. You would have to have batted 18 because you still have to get 3 outs. So in order to score 17, you've got to have 20 to bat. So yes.
God, that's unbelievable.
A minimum of 20 batted in that inning. I
that's
don't know if that's
unbelievable.
That's the number.
So you cycled through your batting order twice in one inning. Maybe 3 times or close to 3, 2.5.
Could have been
in one inning.
I mean, again, you can have up to. So if you batted, you scored 17, right? You can have 3 people on, that would be 20, and 3 people out would be 23. You could almost bat 3 times around.
Yeah.
Almost.
That's unbelievable.
You're gonna be 2.5. Right.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah. That'd be the most you can.
Yeah, but I can remember being a part of some baseball innings where you get like 9, 10, 11. You go through your order, and like the next 1 or 2 guys are up. You know what I mean? Like I can remember being a part of a few of those.
Auburn scored 13 in a super regional one time in the first inning. That was back in 19 when they made it to the World Series, the first appearance back in the World Series since the late 90s. They scored 13 in the first inning against North Carolina, at North Carolina. And, of course, they had to hold on for dear life to win because they scored maybe 1 or 2 more runs at the end of that game. I think they ended up winning at 16-12 or something like that. Right. It was something stupid. But
hey, I'm proud of my Kentucky Batcats so far.
Yeah, there you
go. I just want to throw that in there real quick. Before today, they led most of this game. They lost it 4-3. Before today, they had the longest winning streak in the country. They had 17 wins in a row before today, but they failed today. Now they are 21-3, but they're 5-1 in conference in the SEC. Swept the first conference series, and won the second on the road against Alabama. Now they're going home this weekend. Actually, they will play Western Kentucky on Tuesday. Their midweek game,
right?
And then they will return home and play this Missouri team, who surprisingly swept T last weekend, and then I believe has gotten swept themselves this weekend. Isn't that right?
Say who? Sorry.
Missouri.
Let's see. Who was Missouri playing? They were playing South Carolina. Yes. They should be 3-3 in conference right now.
Yeah. So they swept Tennessee and then got swept by South Carolina.
Yes.
And they will be coming in to Kentucky Home Park and playing the Cats this coming weekend. So I'm hoping that Kentucky can get another series win, and be 3-0.
So
on the weekends.
So the in terms of the standings right now, South Carolina and Vanderbilt both hold 6-0 records in conference. Kentucky is 5-1. Florida is 4-1 with the 5-2 lead right now in the top of the 8th. So they may be joining in at 5-1. Tennessee is 3-3 after being swept, then sweeping. Missouri is also 3-3 after sweeping, then being swept. Georgia is 1-5 after getting swept in the first series, and then getting swept in the first series, and then winning the third game of the Auburn series. LSU is 4-2. Taking 2 series 2-1. Arkansas is 4-2 after winning 1 game against LSU and sweeping Auburn. Bama is 2-4. Auburn is 2-4. Texas A&M is 1-5. Ole Miss is 0-5, about to go 0-6. And Mississippi State is 0-6. So your last 2 national champions
are 0-6. Are fixing to be 0-6.
0-6 in the conference this year. The last 2 national champions are 0 in the conference this year. Either the conference is really good, or they're nowhere near being good at all. And I would lean definitely for Mississippi State that they are not that great. I can tell you that they do not have the pitching. They don't.
I don't know. So who does Ole Miss play this coming week?
Who are they about to play?
Yeah, who do they play this coming weekend?
Give me a second, and I will tell you. That's not the right thing to do.
Like I said, I know Kentucky plays Missouri.
Right. So when we go into Friday of the 31st,
Auburn and Florida play. Missouri.
Auburn is at Florida.
Tennessee at LSU.
Tennessee at LSU. Georgia at Vandy. South Carolina at Mississippi State. Ole Miss is at Texas A&M. And we go back down to SEC. We have Alabama at Arkansas. And that should be it. Did I miss one? Yeah, no, so that should be all of them right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yep. So that is it right there. As far as your series next weekend.
Right.
Auburn is the only one with a tie in their record. Actually,
I was just wondering if they're 0-6, Ole Miss is going to have to step it up this coming weekend. Whoever they're playing is what I was.
Yeah, because Mississippi State is probably going to be 0-9, and Ole Miss,
Texas A&M at A&M is not going to be an easy one, but they need that series. So does Texas A&M. Honestly, they need that series too.
Correct, they need that series. So it's looking like the East has a lot more teams that are that have better records currently. South Carolina and Vanderbilt are by far the class, along with Florida, and I would say Kentucky right now. We will hold judgment on Kentucky.
Yeah, I am too.
Because Kentucky in the past versus this year's Kentucky, we're going to hold judgment on Kentucky, but South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Florida are the class of the SEC. LSU and Arkansas are the class of the SEC as well. I mean, I would add them into it, even though they're 4-2 versus 6-0 and 5-1.
Yeah, they played each other.
I would let them be in that, and so you've got 6 teams that have separated themselves from everybody else, and Tennessee, and we'll have to hold judgment on Missouri, but Tennessee is probably in the middle somewhere. Missouri is probably in the middle somewhere. A&M should be in the middle. Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss should be in the middle. Mississippi State, we know because we have seen Mississippi State throughout the year be bad. So I'm going ahead and saying Mississippi State is done. Georgia is bad. Mississippi State is bad. Ole Miss might be bad.
Might be.
You know, Arkansas had a bunch of pitching, injuries before the season got started or within the first couple of weeks of the season, and they have gone out there and looked really good. Even in their losses, they've looked good. So they I think they're doing a lot better than what.
So I think you're middle of the pack right now. Surprisingly, Tennessee, Texas A&M, I would put in there.
If Auburn can get pitching, then they will flip from being somewhere in the bottom middle to being the upper middle. They just don't have pitching right now because
and Kentucky, even though I'm a fan, I'm a major fan of Kentucky basketball and football. But if I'm going to be a fan of anybody, I'm going to be a fan of Kentucky over some other school because I'm a Kentucky fan. But I haven't, Kentucky baseball. It's kind of known. They have a thing, they start out kind of strong, play some of the weaker teams, get in the SEC, and struggle because the SEC is such a powerful baseball conference. But they have started out well. They have a big series coming up with Missouri this weekend, and we'll see where they fall. They swept Tennessee, and now sitting at 3-3. So and Kentucky's 5-1. So the series, if they're going to continue to the season, I think it's a series that Kentucky needs to win this weekend. In my opinion. Yeah. All right. So I got the prize picks up. Talk about our prize picks. We are sponsored by Prize Picks now. And you can go to prizepicks.com and open you up a new account. And when you do this, use our code CSCAST. And Prize Picks will actually double your money up to $100. So it's a daily fantasy sports league, and you can go in there and play. If you put down $50, you'll actually get $100 to play with. If you put down $100, you'll actually get $200 to play with. Minimum bets are $5, I believe. There's over 30 sports that you can play with. The NCAA tournament is going on. So there's a lot of great stuff. You can go in there and make your picks. And before you do all that, when you log in, use our code CSCAST, and that will help us out as well as doubling your money. PrizePicks.com.
Yep.
All right. So closing thoughts here. I was going to close with some of my Tennessee thoughts. I kind of opened with that when I threw them in with the Alabama stuff, to be honest with you, and talking about how they had not, them and Alabama both just can't get over that hump in the NCAA tournament, even with some of their better teams, and I kind of opened with that. So I won't dig into that too much. I am going to reiterate that, you got a Mountain West Conference, a Conference USA, and a Big East in the Final Four. You have now San Diego State, a complete West Coast team here, all right? And you've got an East Coast team with UConn. And then you have a Florida, team in with Florida Atlantic. So you have, here, and way out there, and they're all going to meet in Houston, Texas, this weekend, and play in the Final Four on Saturday and Monday. Yeah. So, and then we'll add one more team, either Miami, who would be another Florida team, or Texas, who would get to play their Final Four in Houston.
Right. Yep. Which I believe the last I saw was 9-9 on Texas Miami.
As the game started,
It is now 11-11. Yes. The game has started.
okay, I had switched it over to some baseball stuff since we were talking about baseball.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've got it as 14-11 Texas.
Oh,
is that right?
Gotcha. It could be. I'm lagging, so yeah, that is a possibility. But last thing before prize picks, I guess, or if you want to do prize picks first. Not
I
prize
did the
picks,
prize
but
picks.
home for troops.
I can do our homes for our troops. So our home
Yeah,
for our
do that.
troops is our 2023 nonprofit organization. If you're looking for a place to help out and give some money to and help some people, this is Home for Our Troops. They build homes for injured and wounded veterans. They've been doing this for 20 plus years. And for every dollar that you give, 90 cents of that dollar goes towards rebuilding their lives by building them homes. They will do this for these injured and wounded troops anywhere. So anywhere in the country, if you're from Texas and you want to move to Alaska for some reason, they will build you a house in Alaska. Do this and give to them by going to hfotusa.org.
Yep. All right. So next show, Tuesday, March 28th, we will have Blake Lane of the Up Tempo podcast. That is an Auburn podcast. We will talk Auburn football, baseball, and basketball with him. He does a lot of stuff as far as just commenting on a lot of these things. So we will get in with how the Auburn season ended in basketball, the Auburn spring and expectations for Auburn in football, and how Auburn baseball is currently going. He will bring great insights. He has his own podcast, the Up Tempo Podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at the Up Tempo Pod.
All right. And that will be Tuesday at 8 Central Time.
Correct.
With the Up Tempo Podcast that will be with us. And then you can see down there, we are now part of WSBN TV. We have our own channel, Channel 30. Check us out. This is you can find us on like Apple TV, Roku, and play, Fire Stick, stuff like that. So you can find us on WSBN TV, Channel 30. We're proud to be part of that. We're also presented by the Fanboys. And then our shows are listed there. We are College SportsCast. We are on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time. And then we do our Sunday shows like today, 3 p.m. Central Time on Sunday afternoons. And we try to bring you guys some picks, and our week wrap-ups are usually on Sunday. And that's kind of what this was that we done for you today. Our March Madness Sweet 16 to Final Four special. So we will see you guys on Tuesday night. We appreciate you joining us and being with us, and we will see you on Tuesday night with the Up Tempo Podcast, and we'll do a little Auburn talk, Auburn Tigers.
Yep.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
See you.